The Las Vegas Raiders are off to a great start to the year. They're 2-0. They just beat the Steelers on the road in Pittsburgh 26-17. And by the way, the Raiders have now beat two teams in a row that were playoff teams last year. Last week they beat the Ravens week 1. They beat Pittsburgh this week in week 2. Now you have to acknowledge that the Raiders did catch a break. Star edge defender TJ Watt left the game early for Pittsburgh. He did not play the entire second half. But on the other, the flip side of that is that even though Pittsburgh lost TJ Watt, and then also later they lost offensive lineman Trey Turner, who got kicked out of the game, it's not like the Raiders were playing at full strength either. Their running back Josh Jacobs did not play. He's hurt. They didn't have their guard Richie Incognito. Remember, they lost their other guard Denzel Good week 1 with an ACL tear. So it's not like the Raiders were, at full strength playing against a full strength Pittsburgh team. Both people lost. Both teams had a player or two get hurt, and losing TJ Watt is a massive deal. Do not get me wrong. But I mean, let's just be clear. Both teams are at a disadvantage in certain ways on Sunday. The Raiders found a way to win. Now, before we talk about Derek Carr, I just got to say, I'm feeling really, really good about this Raiders football team. There's a lot of young guys stepping up and making plays. I want to list a couple of them. Trayvon Mullen had a nice interception. He's a corner in year 3 of his career. There's another third-year player, tight end Foster Moreau. He had 2 big catches against Pittsburgh, one on a back shoulder seam ball, then later he had a touchdown catch. Both of the Raiders' tackles, by the way, Colton Miller and Alex Leatherwood, are former first-round picks. They're young at the beginning of their career. Receiver Brian Edwards should have had a touchdown. He's a stud. That guy I mentioned, Alex Leatherwood, actually had a holding call that got that called back. Henry Ruggs, their number 12 overall pick from last year, second-year player, had a long 61-yard touchdown, and that's, by the way, why they drafted him, was to make big plays. And he finished with, Henry Ruggs finished with 5 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. Then you have Hunter Renfrow, who's an underrated slot receiver who does great work and is really good at getting yards after the catch. He had multiple key first downs for the Raiders against Pittsburgh. Now, watching this game, a couple things became very, very clear early on. Pittsburgh's mission was to shut down the Raiders' star tight end, Darren Waller. And they kind of did that. Darren Waller had 5 catches for 65 yards, which by his standards is not an amazing football game. But the other thing that became very apparent, what was fun to watch about this game, was that because their game plan focused so heavily on stopping Darren Waller, it gave other players opportunities. And it was so cool to see the rest of the Raiders' young roster step up and make plays and kind of rise to the occasion. Now, I want to talk about Derek Carr, the Raiders quarterback. After this game ended, I decided to go on Google and try to figure out, okay, how many quarterbacks have the Raiders had in their past and who are the notable guys in their history? And looking at the former Raiders quarterbacks made me realize I believe Derek Carr is the best quarterback in Raiders history. And the only guy who kind of even comes close to comparing to him is Kenny Stabler, a guy who played quarterback for them in the late 70s. And I just really fundamentally believe that as this young team gets better and better around Derek Carr, and people start making plays and they start winning more games, people are going to finally realize just how good Derek Carr is. There's going to be a collective realization around the league, and people are going to go, oh my goodness, Derek Carr has been making play after play after play. And I think at some point this year, he's going to enter the MVP conversation. Will he win? I don't know. There's a lot of factors that determine that. But Derek Carr is playing out of his mind and deserves a ton of respect. And I know we're only 2 games in, but I just really believe this Raiders football team is making a lot of progress. They had 2 wins in a row now. They beat, the Ravens, and they beat Pittsburgh. And I had the Raiders winning 10 games this year. And the more I watch the Raiders play football, I feel better and better about that prediction. I'm like, man, I think the Raiders are making progress. John Gruden's in year 4. Derek Carr looks really good. And the young players around Derek Carr are making more and more plays. And I just go, oh, man, this is a fun year for the Raiders. They're building something. And I can't remove my emotion. I want to see them do really well. And I find myself kind of rooting for them and hoping they do well. But I just also, aside from my emotion, I really do believe they're doing the right stuff and headed in a good direction. And I didn't expect them to beat Pittsburgh. I really was like, man, they'll start 1-1. Pittsburgh's a really good football team. Then they beat Pittsburgh, and I'm like, oh man, this is a team gaining some traction, gaining some steam, and players are making plays. And I just want to say, I think the Raiders are really, really headed in the right direction.